All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the OK Run Show. Today, we have an interview with Tahlequah's Trae Baker. Trae, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Colin?
I'm doing all right. So, did you just get out of practice?
I did. So I got home about 15, 20 minutes ago and took a shower and then hopped on. Uh, we had a long day today, recovery run. So,
Okay. Cover. How long is a standard recovery run for you?
uh, so today was 6 miles. Uh, During cross, I hit 34 at my peak, and then right now I'm about 20, 25
Miles total, like in a week total.
total. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was about to say, if you're running 30-mile like easy days, I've
No-
dude,
Oh no, yeah.
crazy training plan. What does a standard week look like for you? Because you are a more mid distance based guy. What does it look
Right.
like?
During cross country or a track?
We'll do track.
Okay, so our hard workout was on Monday on the track, and then a Tuesday would be recovery, and then a Wednesday would kind of be like a light speed day, and then Thursday's a kind of a medium to light recovery, and then Friday was what we call a pre-race,
Okay.
and then be our meet, or Friday would be our meet. Uh, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are always the same. It's just kind of depending on how our meet. So like a Thursday would be pre-race, and then we have meet Friday or whatever. So
So, what's a typical hard day look like for you? Like Monday. What's a typical Monday? What does a Monday look like?
like a workout.
Yes. Like what is a standard workout you'd say?
Yeah, so 800 repeats, K repeats, 600 repeats. Uh, I mean, there's some of my go-tos. So we do they're called lazy 600s, and we do a 400, uh, and then we do a 50-meter jog, and then a 150 sprint. And then that's one rep, and then we do about six or seven of those. So that's a pretty good staple at Tahlequah. And then we've kind of implemented a little bit more training as if we kind of gained more knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and working for our athletes. And me and my coach, we kind of work together um, with the training plans and everything. So he has an athlete and a coach perspective, not just a coach perspective, and how the athletes feel and what the coach thinks and just stuff like that. And it's really going well right now. So
So Wednesday is speed day. Is that like short, 40 meter, 60-meter kind of sprints? What does that look like?
yeah, so we call them a 3x3 or 2x2. And we do a 300, a 200, and a 150. Three 300s, two 200, or three 200s, and three 150s.
Okay.
Um, Depending on how we feel, and that's just kind of like of kind of get your stride out and just see how you're feeling and try not to go too hard because we have the meet in 2 days or 3 days or whatever.
So
Um,
so what would you come through like 300 in of that workout?
um, it depends. So we try to start at around 50 or 51 or 52. And we get down to it kind of depends, like 48 or 49.
Okay.
But a lot of these days are just kind of strides, not me going 100% because I'm really saving myself for a meet. So I'm just trying to get some strides in and loosen up everything.
So you just ran at Holland Hall. Holland Hall, you ran 154, which is close to your PB, if I'm not mistaken. It's
Mhm.
not a PB though, because you're just
No,
off by like some tenths.
yeah, okay,
Because you
yeah.
are you've already run 154, another 154 under your belt to start your season. Well, start your outdoor season. Quite good. I know it was windy. Don't necessarily know how windy it felt in Holland Hall on that track. I imagine still windy. I know it was windy here in Stillwater, and then double back with 422. Is 422 your mile PB, or are you am I a little off on that?
Yeah, 5 seconds.
So
Yeah,
what's your mile? So that was a 5 second mile PB for you.
yeah,
That's heck of a
yeah.
way to start your season. And that's why we gave you or not we, Sean and I did not have anything to do with that. We just posted the poll. The people gave you performance of the week. The people, and I will say the people, it was quite a few. You won the poll by a good margin. It was like 100 something votes for you. And I think the next closest was in like the 50s. So
Yeah.
it was a sizable, like everybody agreed upon, like that's pretty impressive to run 154 in those conditions and then be able to double back to run a quite decent PB in the mile of 422. So take us through that race a little bit. Like, how was the meet?
Okay, so the winds are about 15 to 20 miles per hour
Hmm.
on the grid. Um, so yeah, I mean, I got out at a 56.
Okay.
I got it, and then I
Hmm.
came back around 58. Usually I get out around 55, 54,
Hmm.
but I mean,
First meet of the
it's
year.
yeah,
First meet of the year. You're not getting out as hard.
yeah, and I'm just getting into it, and
Right.
uh, so that was a really good starting point, especially because I started out at a 158, 159 last year on my first outdoor.
Hmm.
So I was really happy with how everything went, and then with the mile, we ran it at night. There's no wind.
Those are
Um,
lovely. Like
it,
the
it
end of the meet, it gets the wind chills out, and you're just like,
yeah,
hallelujah.
right. And I broke 430 like once last year.
Hmm.
And to start out with a 422 is just like wow, like because I didn't really like the mile last year,
Hmm.
but I had said this year, and it was just kind of like I'm not just an 800 guy. Like I want to be good at something else as well.
So
Um,
I was doing a brief bit of research before this because this podcast did kind of get set up really quickly. But I was looking through and I noticed that was kind of a big thing that I noticed is that the biggest improvement I saw is that you're a lot stronger as far as like longer stuff goes than you were.
mhm,
You've made
yeah,
sizable improvements, obviously winning state cross country as a guy who in previous years was known as 800 guy, maybe 4.8 guy, kind of 8 mile guy, but still not as known for that. And then now win 5A state cross country. Now like newfound strength. How did you get to this new strength that you've found?
it. So I kind of just went all in. Uh, I just started doing my routines. Like I do protein shakes. I roll out every night. I stretch every night. I do push ups. I do crutches. I get in my Normatec boots every
Mm-hmm.
night. It's just kind of like I went all in and I wanted to be successful. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I work hard on the track, but like the big difference is what are you doing off the track? Like how are you doing? How are you helping your body recover and what are you eating? And it's just kind of a lot of goes into it. And it's not just the workouts. Obviously it helps, but a lot of it is what are you doing on the outside and how much are you putting into it? It's just a lot. I just changed and uh, I just went all in and I took out a lot of the distractions and just went all in for running and it paid off. So
Yeah, certainly paid off. How did you initially get into running? Like what was this what kicked you off?
yeah, so I've been running since first grade, um, and competitively since I was 10 or 9 or 10. Um, but my dad was a 4.4 40 yard dash guy. But he was a football guy. I'm a first generation runner. Uh, but my dad was kind of like a sprinter, somewhat. They would call him up to meet sometimes, but I just had a natural gift uh, of speed, and they just threw me in a race one time, and I did pretty well, and I haven't really looked back ever since. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, it's 50 point as an 800 guy. I know that when I look at 800 guys, if you've got like a good high school like 400, you're a 50 point guy. 50 point guys, if you go on to college to run the 800, that's what college coaches want. They want that guy that has that 50, 48 to
yeah,
50 for an 800
oh
guy.
yeah,
You want those guys because speed is largely or it's a lot bigger chunk of your speed is genetic. You can
yeah.
always get better aerobically. And
Hmm.
so your progression of like you were a 50 point guy. When did you run the 50 point? I think it was a relay split or was that in the open?
That was in the open. I only ran that
Okay.
last year, one meet, the open. So
So you have 50 point your junior year. And I'm sure
mhm.
you'll probably run quicker if you do an open for this outdoor season. But you see that like natural speed that makes
Yeah,
like mid D coaches kind of salivate a little bit because they're just like, dude, all I got to do, get this guy a bit more aerobically strong. And I know my college coach always said, kind of whatever your 400 was in high school, it's pretty easy, like pretty early to make you 150 whatever. So if you're a 55-second guy, you could probably get to 155 pretty easy. So
Yeah.
like for you, if you're a 50-point guy, that's really salivating for a college coach. So like, oh, you can be a 150 guy pretty quickly.
Right.
Obviously from there, then it starts getting tough to get past that one, but obviously it happens. Because not a lot of guys are running, like not a lot of 144 guys are running 44 in high school. So the rule doesn't work, obviously,
Right.
the quicker you get in the
Yeah.
400. But, that's obviously great. You're going to University of Central Arkansas. Take
Yeah.
us through a little bit of the recruiting process, because younger people, so sophomores, juniors that are about to start doing the whole recruiting process, don't know. What was the recruiting process like for you? And then we'll lead into like UCA a bit.
Yeah. So I've been on NCSA since my sophomore season, I believe, but I've been kind of talking to coaches since my freshman year. I got up, I was talking to coaches early. It's kind of good to weigh out your options. But I wanted to go somewhere I was valued and not just another guy on the roster or another guy on the team.
Mhm.
Um, and right when I stepped on campus, it just felt right. Like I had a
UCA
lot of
felt right.
yeah, I had a lot of peace with like God and everything. And it just felt right. And there's so many green flags I couldn't really find a red flag, and it just all came together at the right time. But you got to be patient with it. It's just and like I had to reach out. It was just kind of like you gotta have to put the effort sometimes.
Mhm.
For, so yeah, I really like it.
So kind of what all like colleges were some of your top colleges for, like, who did you choose over, like who did you who I can cut this little part out. UCA is where you're going. Who
Yeah.
is that like next tier down? Who are the other schools that made UCA kind of a hard decision there? Like what other schools did you think about and consider heavily?
So Washburn, Emporia State, Oklahoma State, uh, uh and that's kind of like the and Valparaiso.
Hmm. So those
So
were kind of your like next tier down.
yeah, I would say so. But I mean, it was kind of close, but like I knew at the end of the day, like it just had that was the only feeling I had when I stepped on campus at Central Arkansas.
Hmm.
So I knew I was called to be there. Um, and I'm excited to get to work and to get started. But obviously, I have my senior season to still do. So
What meet do you head to next?
yeah, so on next, I'm off this week.
Okay.
I don't know why, but that's just how it works, I guess. But next week, I'm going to Glenpool on Friday, and then TDF on Saturday.
Okay. So
But
double meet weekend.
yeah, but at Glenpool, I'm probably just gonna run an open 400.
Okay. Little tune
And then
up.
yeah, and then 800 at TDF.
Okay.
So I'm really excited for
Hmm.
the
Do you have a
TDF.
goal for TDF? You're welcome to throw out something if you got a hot take of what you think you're gonna run. Like, don't worry about it. Like, give us your goal. What's your aspiration for TDF?
I mean, just a PR, and it's gonna be a stacked field. So if I run with them, it's gonna be a good time. I just got to be confident in my training, and because I'm the number 3 guy in the nation will be there. So
Hmm.
it's just kind of like I'm gonna have to step up, and I can't be scared. And it's just kind of like I've been waiting for a big race like this for a while. Um, so I'm excited to see where it goes and not try to back down and everything. So I'm excited.
So you touched a little bit on this, and when we were deciphering who we wanted to do for the interview, and we decided we were like, okay, Trae would be a good one to interview for this kind of first, not me and Sean interview like podcast.
Yeah,
And Dade, when I asked, hey, what do you guys specifically want to know? And you already kind of touched on this a little bit at points already, but he wanted to know a lot more about your faith. Talk
yeah,
about your faith with running, because I think that's something that
yeah,
especially scrolling through your Instagram, it seemed like
mm,
every post had at least a little something about that.
yeah,
Talk to us about it.
yeah. So like, oh my gosh, my faith has just been like, I grew a lot this year, and I would say a lot of my success is from it because it is. Like God's been so good to me, and like, oh, it's there's so many like good things that have happened. And like I really like guys like Dade and other people that are open about their faith. Because it really inspires me, and it just shows like there is guys that believe in God and are willing to show others
Mhm.
and everything like that, like what God does and what joy He brings and everything like that. So like I've been so blessed and everything that's God like's given me, and to talk with other guys like Dade, uh, with the running community is just kind of relieving. You know, it's good to have other guys that you can talk to about your faith openly. Uh, so yeah, I mean it's been really good. Uh, so I mean, I have a lot of verses that I kind of like
So
look at.
whenever I step back into, the Oklahoma running world and I was kind of getting back into it, that's kind of one thing that I noticed was actually quite popular with the Oklahoma runners or the top Oklahoma runners. It seems like all of them have one common denominator is their faith is quite strong. And that's something
Yeah,
that I've noticed. And I've loved to see. Obviously, that's a great thing for runners because runners, you often get super attached to your running performances. You get attached to this number next to your name at every race. But having something else that's like, you're not just running for that number. You're not just running for this PB. You're running for something now greater than whatever you are. And so that's been quite beautiful for me to see. And I know that's something that has been big. I know Dade, I think, has been doing a lot with I think there's a Bible verse group, I think,
yeah,
on the little Bible app. I think
yeah,
that's how it's been quite popular. I'm not in it, so I don't know if it's how well it's been going, but I've heard it's been doing quite well. It's quite popular
yeah,
amongst a lot of the top runners. Do you feel because you talked briefly about, like kind of the step forward you took, especially with your like more aerobic strength, and then you attributed a lot of that to kind of the stuff you were doing outside of running. Do you feel your development with your faith was also in there? Like
absolutely.
how big of a piece of the pie, Is it?
Oh, it is a big chunk.
Mm-hmm,
Like like win or lose, like God's still the same.
mm-hmm,
It just I experienced a lot of like feeling God's presence a lot and
mm-hmm,
had a lot of experiences with that. And it's just kind of like shows like wow, he's there and he's listening and you're not alone and like all it takes is a faith as a mustard seed to move mountains. And that's one of my favorite verses, Matthew 17:20. Uh, and I have a few other ones, but it's just kind of like all it takes is this little faith and you can blossom, you know? Um, so yeah, I mean, like I went to this year, like I was half in, I was lukewarm, and now it's just you're either hot or you're cold or whatever, but you got to go all in for God. You can't be hard or cold. And that just it gave me new perspective on everything. And it just it's good because like I try to implement that on our cross country team. Um, my faith and everything, and it's exciting to see a lot of them go to church now, and it's just kind of like wow, running does not define you at the end of the day. It's just like a way to show God, like show sorry, show what's God's done for me, um, and like just trying to spread the word of the gospel and everything. Um, so it's been really cool, like to have other guys in the community as well.
mm-hmm.
Like so,
I'll give a little like fun story here. So I this summer, some may know if they follow me on things, they'll have seen my escapades over the summer where I decided I was bored and got in my car and lived in my car in the mountains for like 3 weeks.
mhm.
So my first stop was Colorado Springs, and I was friends with some guys that run at University of Colorado Springs, so UCCS.
Yeah,
While I was there, I was on a run in Monument Valley Park, which is the just like central park of Colorado Springs. And I'm running, and I passed a group of runners and three runners. I noticed one of them. It's Dan Mahalski. Dan Mahalski is a steeplechase, great steeplechase. He was All American in college. He was the national champion in D2. Moved to the D1 level at University of Indiana. His fifth year of college was, if you are a fan of running, you may remember not the last time NCAA's was in Austin, but the time before that, there was a crazy steeplechase men's race where in the last 200 meters, one guy fell in the water barrier and then another guy fell on the last barrier, but got up and still won. The guy from
Yeah.
Stanford that won it. The guy who fell in the water pit was Dan Mahalski. That's who Dan is. So Dan moved to Colorado Springs to train up there. There's a wonderful interview if you want to get to know Dan a little more that he did with Let's Run, I think a year or so ago. Um, but Dan, I noticed him and I met him and I got to talking to him on the run. I just like passed him, I was like, hey man, do you guys mind if I run with you? And they're like, yeah. So it was Dan, this guy named Tidrik Nurme. Tidrik Nurme is an Estonian marathoner. He's not just an
Okay.
Estonian marathoner. He is one of only, I believe it's 5 men to ever go to the Olympics in the 1500 and the marathon. He went in 2008 in Beijing in the
Okay.
1500, and he's went to the last two, so 2016 and 2020 in the marathon. So he's had a crazy career. He's from Estonia, which is like, I think 98% like atheist. It's just not a religious country.
Right.
He is part of the 2% that's religious, and of that 2%, half of them are Christian, and so he's in an even smaller percentile of Christians in his country, and he does a lot of work with that over there.
That's
And
cool.
the third guy was Solomon. He was Tidrik's training partner. Solomon's from Kenya. Solomon also quite a man of faith. But we got to running, and then they invited me the next day to go to like they were doing like a workout. It was like my second or third day at elevation, so I was like, I'm not gonna do a workout, especially not with these guys. They're doing Ks on the road at like 3 minutes off short rest, and I was like, no shot, no shot. Me 3 days in altitude is gonna hang on. But I got to running with their coach, and the coach is the UCCS coach, Mark Mish. Mark Mish is also quite a man of faith.
Yeah.
And he like invited me over for breakfast with him and like Tidrik, and we sat there and ate. And then by the end of the week, they like invited me to their like church with them on Sunday. So I went to church with 3 or 4 people that I had just met.
Hmm.
Really, like this is kind of the like faith in the running community. It doesn't always get talked about, but it's
Right.
quite out there. And like literally, I just met these guys kind of a little bit on a whim because I noticed, Dan, and I knew of Dan. And then by the end of the week, I ended up going to church once in the morning, and then we went home afterwards, and like we were all like asleep. Like Tidrik was off in his room asleep. Coach Mish was off in his room asleep. I was asleep on the couch, and then like Tidrik comes in and he goes, "Hey man, do you want to go to church again?" And I'm just like, sure. So we ended up going to a second church service of the day, but this one was like a really low key, like it's like a house church. Like so a bunch of people get together at this guy's house, like in the little like living room area, share food. We brought a watermelon or a couple watermelons. It was great. Um, so it's a quite a big thing that I've noticed in the running community, and it's also obviously a very powerful thing
Sure.
because it allows you to not just totally be wrapped up in running, which
Right.
is a beautiful thing. And
Absolutely.
with that, we're going to transition to off the track. What are things that we've talked about your faith, we've obviously talked about running. What are things that Trae Baker, the guy, just loves to do? What do you love to do?
So I'm a basketball fanatic.
Okay.
I played throughout my whole life. I stopped my freshman year, just because I wasn't willing to sit on the bench, and also I I I didn't when I knew I wasn't going to go to college for
Mm-hmm.
basketball. So I was just like, I love it, but I was just like, I'm just going to go to running full time. But anyway, I love March Madness. Anything March Madness, like I love doing brackets. I love keeping up with teams. I keep up with like the bracketology, everything, stuff like that. And I like college football as well. I just like sports in general. Uh, and like watching guys like CJ Stroud like being open with their faith, it has really inspired me. And Demario Davis and stuff like that. Uh, it's just kind of cool, like seeing like those celebrities like not be defined by football or their fame or whatever like that. So it was really inspiring to see that. Um, so
So big college basketball. That will be so much fun in college. College
Yeah,
sports gets even more fun when you're there.
right.
Um, I Washburn, obviously we were at D2, so like March Madness didn't apply to us. But our like entire cross country team would go over to one of the guys' houses and we had 5 or 6 TVs going of like all the games that were happening, especially in those early rounds. And we all fill out brackets. Your university department, so like whatever major you get into, they'll probably also have a bracket. Any clubs you get into, they'll have a bracket. You'll be able to fill out so many brackets. You'll be playing with your boys back home. Uh,
Hmm.
that's always like honestly one of the most fun things is doing the brackets and then every year watching just the world burn because like you literally get like I know this is how I am with March Madness is I'll watch the first round and my team will like shoot up, we'll score a lot of points, I'll get a lot of first rounders right, and then whoever I have winning or one of the teams in my final four always lose like the second round, and then I just root for the world to burn. I just like if I'm going down, I'm bringing everybody down with me. Like I hope every upset happens. I just root for chaos after that. Who's your team usually? Like who March Madness is coming up. Who do you have this year? Give us the insight into the brain of Trae, master bracket picker.
Oh, like sleepers or like
Who
projected to win
who
or
do you okay, who do you have to first we'll do who do you have to win? Whole thing.
oh. So I mean, I really don't think there's like one team in general that's just like blowing everybody out right now. Uh, I like Tennessee. I like Dalton Connect. He averages about 20-25 a game. Uh, I really like Tennessee. I mean, KU's been shaky. Purdue, we've seen Purdue in the last 2 years. Um, and then Houston, really like Houston as well. Just how they play defense, and they have some stars as well. And then Iowa State has been really well as well, has been really good as of late as well.
Who are your
Um,
sleepers?
Iowa State easily.
Iowa State's your sleeper.
Okay, I like Iowa State. I like McNeese. They've been really good as of late. Um, Golly, there's a few more that have not popping in my head. Uh, but I mean, the conference tournament hasn't happened yet, so we really don't know who's in yet. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't have all my sleepers like in my head, but I have a few.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like obviously I'm an OSU fan, but they're not good this year, so I
Yep.
I'm kind of going into the tournament just kind of like cheering for the teams that I picked. Uh,
If anybody wants to watch Oklahoma State, specifically men's basketball games, they
yeah.
are wildly cheap right now. I've
Oh
heard
yeah.
guys get tickets for $1. Like
Dang.
you could get like that's how low capacity GIA has been, is that they're like giving out tickets for $1. It's
Hmm.
that bad this year. Because we just decide every couple years to stink and then every couple years to be good. So this happens to be a year that we just absolutely stink. So
Right.
that's a fun
And
time.
a lot of my friends are OU fans, and when
Mm.
OU hit that buzzer beater, I was pretty mad. Uh, so I don't know. I really like college basketball. It's always been something that me and my friends enjoy and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I remember a couple years ago when Cade Cunningham was at OSU and we did well in the tournament.
Mhm.
That year was so great for me because
Right.
they did better than KU. And
Mm.
at Washburn, because you're 25-30 minutes from KU's campus, so many of my classmates, so many of my teammates were all KU fans. And
Right.
I was riding such a high because they were all losing. Because they're all also Kansas City Chiefs fans.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Kansas City, they just never get to lose because they get to basketball season and it's all KU
Yeah.
basketball. Football
Right.
season, they don't have to care about KU football. They can just care about the Chiefs. So they just get a win all the time. And so they just get the mentality about themselves. Thankfully, you'll be going to college in Arkansas, a little different, but They just get to be riding such a high that they can never lose.
Yeah.
And then when they finally do, it's the best. It's so good.
Right.
It was so much fun for me because I just got to be the guy that rooted for everybody else. But I still do occasionally root for KU, occasionally root for the Chiefs because I do have a little bit of a connection there. Um, but the second time the Chiefs won, it was when I was still at Washburn, and they didn't give us like the day off for the Super Bowl parade, which I just wanted the day off because, college students, you never want to go to school if you don't have to. But the first time the Chiefs won, they gave them the day off. So we were all like, come on, like, can we not like just have a day off for the Chiefs winning? Like our Lord and Savior Patrick Mahomes just won the game for us. Like, come on. Are
I
you a
think
big
OSU.
NFL guy?
Yeah, it's hard to say this, but I get a lot of hate for it. But I like the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, I am an avid Dallas Cowboy hater.
That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's fair.
one of the like, oh, we're gonna win the Super Bowl every year, but I just like them, and I've been a fan since I was like 10 or so. But I'm not one of those Dallas Cowboy fans that everyone thinks
Yeah,
they
you're
are.
so you're a rare, reasonable Dallas Cowboy
Yeah,
fan.
and I get a lot of misinterpreted with
Hmm.
just the Dallas Cowboys community, which there's some rowdy guys that are Dallas Cowboys fans, but
Hmm. I
uh,
what I've noticed in Oklahoma in my years of living here, sorry, um, a lot of the state for NFL rooting purposes root for the Cowboys unless they have some connection to some oddball team somewhere else. A couple, especially as you get up in the Northwest, do root for the Broncos. Weirdly, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
they are technically closer to Denver than they are to Dallas. And then now, for some reason, for some odd reason, it seems like there's way more Oklahoma people that have come out as Chiefs fans.
oh
And I'm
yeah,
like,
I
oh
know.
no way, you're a Chiefs fan. All this, they're like Kansas City. It's close. It's basically our team too. We're like, stop. You're just a bandwagoner. That's
It's
fine.
like it's like when everyone was Patriots fans a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and now I don't see anymore because they're not good. It's just kind of like the same might happen with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. So
Uh,
the year the Chiefs played the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, so the year the Bucks won,
yeah,
of course, we have a Super Bowl party where we all sit there and watch the Super Bowl. And we have international kids who don't get what's going on the whole time. But it's
yeah,
it's funnier. It's funnier with that to watch a football game because most of them it's their first football game they've ever seen because they were not going to our D2 football games. They were
right,
going, they're going to watch this Super Bowl because of the cultural significance of it. But the entire room was rooting for the Chiefs. Even the people that didn't know football, they're going to root for the Chiefs because to them it's the local team, and to the people that were from that area of Kansas, local team. But we had one guy who was adamantly rooting for the Buccaneers, and it was our Kenyan. And when they started winning, he stood up, like in the room, just stood up and just flipped everybody off and was like, I know football. You don't know football. Big
yeah,
Dave from Kenya knows football. It was so funny. It was like honestly top 10 funniest moments in my life. And he just did that the entire night. Like he just kept going. He just kept like riding that high because they won. So every time the Chiefs, like when Patrick Mahomes fumbled it, getting sacked, he was up in the air, just like screaming at everybody. He was just like, we hate this. So,
yeah. I can kind of relate with that with like OSU and OU, like how my friends
mhm,
are and how OSU won the football this year. They still
mhm,
about it, which is fine. Uh, like what I tell them is like the trophies stay in the Stillwater forever is what I tell them,
mhm.
and they're kind of get a little pressed. But yeah, I mean, it was just like a lot of OU fans like hate OSU as much as Texas, and I never really get that. Uh, but
Oh, OU fans, I feel like are a lot like the stereotypical Dallas Cowboy fan.
mhm.
They remind me a lot. Like they're like the same kind of person
Yeah,
the same kind of person that takes to be the like stereotype Dallas Cowboy fan is the same exact person that roots for OU. And of course, I now go to Oklahoma State, so I obviously am going to root for the Pokes. But I was working at Eskimo Joe's the day of Bedlam. So like during Bedlam, during the game, it was great. So my shift started before. And so, you get the OU fans and they're rowdy. They're telling you, they're talking trash. And some of them, they come in, they go, "Hey, where's the OU section? You guys have a big OSU section, but where's your OU clothes?" And we would just tell them that it's in the dumpster out back,
Oh
which
my
was
gosh.
it's a great line. It's such a like easy setup. We're a clothing store. Go to the dumpster. Go fish for it. We've got a wide selection back there. It's crazy. More than we have of OSU stuff. But then the game happens. So obviously everybody leaves to go to the game, or they head over to the food side. They're watching the game. We have TVs set up in there, so we're watching as well. But there's no customers, so we just get to watch the game uninterrupted, having the time of our lives. Game ends. People come back in after the game. OSU fans, time of their life. Most of them not still with us on this planet, of course.
Yeah.
But OU fans also trickle in, which is the worst possible thing you could do after that, is being in a public setting any longer than you have to with people who just won the last rivalry game of the rivalry's like history, at least for now. I mean, it'll come back probably in a few years and it'll
Yeah.
be a big spectacle. But for now, OSU gets to be the champions. But when those OU fans came in, they look like they look like troops coming in off the battlefield during like the trench warfare of World War One. They were like in tears, like they were having such a like it looked like someone shot their dog. It was
Yeah.
horrible, but it was so good for OSU fans. Oh man, I had a great night that night just talking to
Yeah.
OU fans after the game.
Yeah. Because I went to the last two Bedlam games, and I was
Mm-hmm.
able, or I think it was the last two in Stillwater.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I was able to rush the field the first time. And I got
Mm-hmm.
a picture of Jalen Warren. I don't know who that is.
Yep, I do know who Jalen Warren
I'm
is.
still Steelers right now. But anyway, I went this year. I didn't rush the field this time, but I mean, it felt basically the same. Like rushing that field. Oh my gosh, it was so like unreal. And then I went to the OSU and Baylor game in Dallas or Arlington,
Mm-hmm.
and they lost by this much with like, oh my gosh. Oh, I've never felt like that before. Like being an inch away from a Big 12 championship. Like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh. And the playoff, college football playoff,
Mm-hmm.
like there was a lot in that game. And if we would have won it, we would have been in the playoffs and we would have won the Big 12 championship, this, that. And a
Yeah.
lot of went into it. We were that close. So, man.
Big sports guy. Big sports guy. If okay, the question I always love to ask like fellow college athletes, I always love to ask them if you could transfer your abilities in your sport to another sport, what sport are you choosing?
Oh, wow.
You're equally as good as you are in the context of running at that sport.
I would probably say basketball, to be honest. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because football is such a physical sport, and like there's just a lot of injuries with it,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people get like brain damage or stuff like that. So it's a lot more risky. Uh, and I just like I love basketball, and like I played my whole life, and it was just kind of like there's more like moments in basketball where it's I would say more intense. Uh, because like football games are really intense, and it gets really intense until like the second half, third or fourth quarter,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But basketball games are always just like this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the moments are just like, man, like rushing the floor when your guy makes game winning shot or something. Like that's something I dream of. Um, so I don't know. I would say basketball
Say
probably.
basketball would be your sport of choice. Have you ever thought, now this is a thought that I've gained recently, is that like there's some weird Olympic sports out there.
Oh yeah,
Is there a weird Olympic sport you actually feel like you'd be decent at? Like it can't be your basic sport. Like you got to pick one. I do you
maybe.
want to hear do you want to hear my answer?
Yeah.
Modern pentathlon.
Okay.
Do you,
So
do you know what that is?
like a running a marathon, then swimming and
No, that's a
biking.
triathlon.
Okay.
So triathlon, that's different. Modern pentathlon is, I think, the funniest Olympic sport out there. It is, I believe there's a fencing event. There's 5 events. Fencing
Okay.
is one of
Yeah,
them. Pistol shooting is one of them. That's combined with a cross country run.
I've heard of this.
So there's like horseback riding, and then there's
Yeah.
like a swim, like a 200-meter swim.
Uh-huh.
I think because of how unpopular that sport is, like how few people do it, that I think I could actually genuinely have a better chance of being an Olympian in that than I could in like a running event. Like
Right.
it's just so niche. I'm like, do we even send 3 people to the Olympics in that sport? Like, do 3 Americans even play it?
Yeah.
That's why this question comes up, but also like some people will pick something like curling. They're like, I think I could be decent at curling.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you've ever played the like little shuffleboard like hand game, some people are like,
Yeah.
I do decent at that. Maybe I could transfer over. Or like table tennis, and then they watch table tennis and they're like, never mind. Is there any like weird sports you've ever just thought about like that'd be fun to try?
Bobsledding.
Oh, bobsled, yes.
Oh, dude.
Oh yeah,
That
that'd be good.
oh my gosh.
Dude, yes. That's like I know that there's been like track and field Olympians who have also went over to the bobsled team because they're just like, well, we're fast, we're powerful, we can push a sled really hard to get us going.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great time.
Oh yeah.
Bobsleigh seems like such a fun event. Like you're
It's entertaining to watch because you only see it around the Olympics.
yeah,
They don't really have it out any other time.
no.
And there's some good documentaries and movies about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
cool
I,
runnings.
no, that's cool because it kind of like with running, it kind of goes with it a
Yeah.
little bit.
You can transfer some of your skills you already have now over there. So that helps. But cool running, the documentary about the Jamaican bobsled team.
Yeah.
I was in a sports psychology class in college because why not? And my roommate, Nathan, he was this British guy. He was also in this class. And we had to pick a movie to like talk about the like mental aspects of it. It had to be a sports movie, talk about the sports psychology, the key factors and stuff and whatever. But I picked because I wanted to be weird. I picked Free Solo, the movie about the guy climbing the rock wall
Oh,
in Yosemite. Yeah, so
mhm.
I picked that one. I was like, okay, this guy's climbing a rock wall. There's got to be some like mental aspects to that. So I did that one. This guy goes, I'd like to do cool runnings, but like imagine me saying that in a British accent. And it was hilarious because then he had to go up there and just talk about the Jamaican bobsleigh team.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that was good. That was a good one. College is coming up soon. I mean, yeah, you still have your senior year. You got a lot of memories to make. You got prom, you got obviously the senior track season, you got graduation. There's a lot of cool stuff. But I know from being a high school senior before, that stuff's all cool, but you're like looking forward because you know where you're
Oh yeah.
going. You know where you're
Oh yeah.
going now. College, what are you looking forward to outside of the running world?
Like meeting new people and like getting a new
Mhm.
start because
Oh yeah.
you know nobody. And
Mm-hmm.
that thing, like meeting new people, meeting new backgrounds, new cultures, and stuff like that is something I'm looking towards too. And then kind of exploring my passions with like a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
What are you wanting to study? Have
I
you decided?
no, I
Pick
have
your
no
card.
idea. Um, I can't make up my mind half the time,
Do
so
you
it's
have
just
anything that interests you? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a degree, and maybe I'll know of a degree if it's like just something you're interested in. But
a little bit, a little bit of finance and healthcare administration.
mm-hmm,
Those are the opposites. And then I thought about being a coach
mm-hmm.
as well. So I like make up my mind 1 month. I'm like, oh, I want to do this, and then the next is
I will tell
so.
you from being in college, and especially as a college athlete, you likely won't be there for like you're not going to expedite it and go through. You're going to go for maybe even 5, probably 5, because at some point you'll redshirt either due to injury or especially if you because you're stepping into UCA, which they've got some good athletes. Your coach might look at you freshman year and go, "Hey, we're going to redshirt because I'd rather have you at 22 years old than at 18."
Yeah,
Because freshmen always like they come in and they're excited, and we love that. We love excited freshmen who are ready to take on the world. That's great. Keep doing that. Keep having that mentality. But when you tell them because they get all hyped. They're like, I'm gonna just tear stuff up, especially if their high school career doesn't end the way they want it to. They don't necessarily
Yeah.
run the time they had in their mind. That you just go to him, you go, hey man, like, yeah, you're fit now because you've taken a step up in training. You probably would run a PB, but you're 18 and you're 6 months into this training. Let's see
Hmm.
you in 4 years from now when you're in your fifth year and you're 22, 23 years old. Would you rather race as an 18-year-old or as a 23-year-old? Like, those two athletes are racing each other. Who's probably going to win? The 23-year-old version of yourself.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
a lot of freshmen, and you'll have teammates that are this way. You may not necessarily be this way, and I don't think you are from our little talk, but you will have your like freshman guys that come in together, maybe even girls, and one of them's gonna be like, dude, I'm gonna win conference this year. And you're gonna look at them and go, no, you're not. But like
Yeah.
maybe
Right.
in a few years you'll be there. But like
Right.
some guys, they win a lot in high school and they haven't really faced that competition. So they just assume we're gonna keep winning. We're gonna keep the train rolling, and then you just gotta go like, relax. But that's always fun, and you'll notice that a lot more when you get to be like a junior, senior in college, and you start getting like recruits coming in. It's it's a wild experience because you're like, wait, was I like that once? And you're just like looking back
Right.
at yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
man,
It's going to be a big step next year.
it
Like,
is.
it's going to be humbling, very.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you just kind of accept it because there's some point where you can only be so good at 18 or
Mm-hmm.
this, and a lot of the guys have 3 or 4 years experience under their belt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot to adapt, but I'm in for the long haul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
you'll get there, and there'll be some workout. Actually, the first week you're on campus, we always called it Flex Week
yeah,
because everybody comes together for the first time, and the freshmen want to prove to the older guys that they're super fit, and the older guys are like, we're not going to let you do that. And so the first week is just like, it's so chaotic of like how like crazy the runs are. Is like whatever your first workout, your first like fartlek of the cross country season, there'll be dudes going way hard that don't need
oh
to. It's gonna be so funny. Like, it's high school amplified in that way because now everybody's like also pretty good.
yeah,
We're like in high school, like especially if you're like a couple levels above like your teammates, if they try that, they're not gonna last very long. It's so like we would always, our first long run was like 6 flat pace, or under. You were always like, the freshmen would come in and they would just rip right away, and they would
yeah,
run 6 flat as long as they could. And then the first, we'd have like, I think we had like hills one time, and we had like freshman boys trying to drop like all of our like all conference guys that have school records, all of that. They would just be out there trying to just lead every single rep. And then we'd have like our better guys just like hanging back, like, that's fine. Like, go for it, kid. Like, we love the enthusiasm. And then by the end of the week, we had a kid, he was peeing blood. Like, this freshman went so hard. He was like, by the end of the week, he was peeing blood. And we were just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, relax. You don't need to go that hard. Like, oh
yeah.
man, you will
Like,
get some wild stories like that.
I can kind of relate to some sense because like
Mm-hmm.
in like races, like it's hard for me not to go 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like I've learned like you gotta take your long days slow and easy
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. It's kind of hard, but I've learned that it helps you recover and it's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Not just going full throttle every
Yeah.
every.
Yeah.
Uh,
Racing's different. Racing, obviously, go full throttle anytime you get in a race. But oh, holy crap, that first week of college is like a fever dream. It's so funny. It might be the most comical week of your life because like you don't have class yet, because you usually
uh,
report at least 1 week prior to school starting. And so you just have a week of, you just train, and then like your coach will probably put together some like team building stuff. You guys might go somewhere for like a little like camp together. I don't know if UCA is the team that does that. I know some teams do, some teams don't. But essentially, the coach will call it camp week, but really it should be properly labeled flex week. It's hilarious. That's great, man. Um, what else did I thought I had something else I wanted to ask. So you don't know what you want to study in college. You do have some interests. And I will say, at least in my advice, now that I'm a graduate student, what I will tell you is your first year, 2 years, you can not
Yeah.
know. Obviously, the
Mhm.
sooner you know, the better, because then you can get down on that track and you can start
Sure.
getting some specific prerequisites, but you can kind of a year or two kind of hold off. But just know, like, get something, get a useful degree, of course. And some colleges will tell you every degree is useful. Some degrees are more useful than the others.
Right.
Like I majored in kinesiology, so like if you
Oh,
wanted to coach like that side,
yeah.
you could go
Yeah.
do that. But I went we had like a coaching like major, like a physical education major, but really all you can do with that is go backwards and be a like a PE teacher or a
Right.
high school coach. If you want to be a college coach, go get a master's degree in something. Could also be physical education, which is what a lot of coaches do in sports where they're like, hey, get a master's degree, but we don't really care what in, which is how college coaching works. So if you do want to go college coaching, you'll just assume get a master's degree. They don't really care what in. They really care about your knowledge of running, of course.
Right.
But what I would tell you is go find something that's not only fun. Like I enjoyed kinesiology. I went the Bachelor of Science route because there's obviously way more uses of it and there's way more things that you can do, which is great. Um, but you can always get like all the degrees you mentioned, all the routes you mentioned, you can go back and coach in some capacity.
Right.
There's no prerequisite to coaching. Depending on the level, obviously college coaching, you got to get a master's. But again, like I said, you get a master's in it. I knew coaches with masters in like history, just because they liked history. So they like,
Yeah.
all right, I'll get a master's degree in that, and so they spend 2 more years like doing history lectures. But get a degree, get something that's enjoyable, because if you get something that is not enjoyable, you will not have a good time in college, because as fun as running is, it lasts for
Oh,
like an hour or two of your day. And then the rest of the day, you got to do something else. And
yeah.
college, you spend even less time like necessarily in classes because you like your class meets 3 days a week for an hour and you take 5 classes. You're not in class from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. You're in class sometimes from like 10 a.m. to like noon on this day. And this day you're in class from 1 to 3. And this class you're
Right.
school at 9. It's all weird and all over the place. But do something fun. That's a big one. Do something you enjoy. And then obviously something that has some use to it. Don't get like a basket weaving degree. Like basket
Yeah.
weaving is cool, but you don't need a degree to be good in the basket weaving realm. You can be a good basket weaver by just basket weaving. You don't need the degree to
Right.
prove you can basket weave.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my advice. But at the end of the day, nobody knows what they're doing. I barely know what I'm going to be doing like this time next year. Well, actually, I do know I'm still doing my master's degree this time next year. But like the older you get, the less you will know somehow or another. And
Right.
it's great. But it's so much fun. College is the best. It's way more fun than high school. And
Absolutely.
the memes are true, your teachers are not true. The teachers always say in high school, like, oh, your college professors will not accept this. But then you go on like Instagram and they make a meme out of that like high school teachers always tell you that your college professors won't
Yeah.
accept this. Most college professors will accept like all the shenanigans and stuff. Like if you're just not feeling well, like you have a hard workout, you could just like email your professor and be like, hey man, I don't feel good, I'm not coming to class today. And he'll be like, all right, cool. Because unlike high school, they're not paid based on your attendance, based on your scores. They're just like, they don't care if you show up or not. It's on
Right.
you. If you don't
Yeah.
pass the class, that's you. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, go to class. But man, some days you will at some point in your college career skip way more college classes than you will skip high school classes because it actually,
Right.
yeah.
Is there anything else? Because I got to go in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Oh,
So
you're good. I think this is a great stopping point. But yeah, thank you for coming on, being one of the first people that we're going to interview and get this interview out soon. So, yeah, looking forward
yeah,
to seeing your race, man.
I'm gonna end on something else. So in the
Go
words of
ahead.
Graves into Gardens, it said, "I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me." And like, if you search the world, it won't fill you, but if you search God, it will. And that's something that I've implemented a lot with my team and or in my life as well. Um, so I kind of want to end on that note.
Beautiful.
But I wanted to thank you for allowing me to do this, and I can't wait to see like other guys or other
Mhm.
girls get interviewed. And I really like the community, how it's blossoming, and how running's getting covered, and everything. So
Beautiful. And on that note, I think it's time to end. Thank you, Trae Baker.
thank you,
All
Colin.
right. We'll see ya.
All right, yeah.